Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be a little bit different than some of the other videos that I have on my channel. I haven't really branched out and done anything other than my pregnancy vlogs at this point. And, I look a hot mess. And I got like no sleep last night, and was at work all day. My dogs are driving me absolutely nuts since I've been home. Ugh. But for some reason, this is something that is kind of on my mind right now, especially this time of year, with it being, Christmas time, and, everything is supposed to be magical and wonderful, and, everybody is supposed to be super nice and giving to each other. And, this time of year really holds some bad memories for me, and, I guess I just kind of wanted to talk about it. So I'm going to try not to make this like a super long video. There's some stuff that I may talk about that maybe at some other point I'll go more in detail about. But if I talk about this incident in its entirety, this would be a several part video series. And maybe I'll do that someday. Maybe I will tell you guys all about the horrible things that I have dealt with in my life, and maybe I won't. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But it's very personal, and is a big part of why this time of year, while I love this time of year, still holds some unsavory memories for me. And especially being pregnant, it's really kind of brought those memories out a little more. And also because my boss and I kind of got talking about it today. Well, I was learning some new stuff at work, and she was chit-chatting with me, and it kind of, the things we were talking about kind of brought up some memories. So I guess to give you the very short version that really needs a lot more explanation and like gone in depth about, but I just don't have the time or the energy, honestly, because it is exhausting talking about, because I still get so upset and I still get so angry when I talk about it. But the short version is, oh god, I don't even know, 4 years ago, was it? I mean, I've been in Tennessee for 3, so yeah, I guess it was 4, maybe, yeah, 4 years ago, I guess. 4 years ago, around this time of year, several things led up to this, but I had a huge falling out with my family. Huge, massive. It was ugly, and there was a lot of crying, and there was a lot of cussing. And like I said, there was a whole lot that led up to this. It wasn't just, one day all of a sudden we all said fuck you to each other and that was that. But it was maybe a week or two before Christmas, which, we're sitting here the first week in December, so the next, well, now we're in the second week, the beginning of the second week, so, these next 2 weeks are really bringing the memories back, like. So, my stepdad, whom I do not have a relationship with, will not have a relationship. As far as I'm concerned, my son will never know he exists. That is the kind of relationship we had. He was very emotionally and mentally abusive towards me. As well as, I fully believe, he is a textbook narcissist, and he was very, very horrible to me growing up. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, maybe you just didn't like your stepdad. No. Like I said, I'm not going to go super into detail, but here are just a few things to kind of showcase what I'm talking about. You may not like your stepdad or your stepmom, but have they ever told you that they're going to have one of their friends come... Loretta, could you, shush? Thanks. My dog. she's deciding now is the time to chew on her toys on the bed and make all kinds of noise. Pick a different toy. That one's too loud. So anyway, you may not have liked your stepdad or your stepmom, but have they ever threatened that they were going to have some of their friends pull up and in a white van and kidnap you while you walked to work because they didn't think that you paid enough attention as you were walking, and that having you kidnapped would scare some sense into you? Or before you ever even dated your boyfriend, went to their house and took pictures so that they could show them to you to see if you recognized the building. Told you that they knew your boyfriend's parents and that they were saying these mean, horrible, awful things about you when they had never seen him once in their life. And then, like a month later offered to let me come live with them. So, like I said, those are just a select few things that were said to me or done or, pertain to the situation. So I could talk for hours about what he did and said and how fucked up all of it was. But I'm not going to. So we're leaving it at that. That's a big thing that started the whole downfall of my family's relationship with each other. So it all kind of came to a head. I had moved out at this point, and I was living with, like I said, I'd moved out with my boyfriend, and I moved in with his parents because I just couldn't take it anymore. And I didn't have the money to get a place of my own yet. So they let me come live with them for a little while, and then my boyfriend and I, the boyfriend I'm talking about is not my current husband, by the way. This was the man I dated before my husband. So we got our own place, and we were great. Everything was fine. But I was getting mean and nasty texts from my sister, who I also don't have a relationship with. And not having a relationship with her upsets me a little bit more than not having a relationship with my stepdad. Like, my stepdad can burn in hell, can go fuck off for all I care. I don't give a shit. I'm done with him. I want nothing to do with him. That's that. My sister is a little harder because when we were kids, we were best friends. And I don't really know what happened that she started acting the way she did. She started following me places and pretending like she wasn't. Things I would tell her, tried to tell her in confidence, she would go and tell my stepdad, and he would then later use it against me. Going through my purse to look for anything she could use against me, like the time she found condoms in my purse, which at the time she found the condoms in my purse, I was 20 years old. So there was not a damn thing anybody could do about the fact that I was, or was not, having sex. I was prepared. I was, but, as far as they knew, I just had them just in case. And they were in my purse, zipped up in a compartment. And she claims that she found that she just was walking past my room and saw them sitting in my purse on my bed. There's also a fly in the room. And so Loretta keeps trying to get it. But yeah, she was sending me mean and nasty texts, and my stepdad kind of joined in, and he was sending me mean and nasty texts, and the whole thing really hit a point where I was talking to them before the whole mean and nasty stuff started. I was talking to them about plans for Christmas. Because we were going to do, my boyfriend Jake and I were doing our own Christmas, as well as Christmas with his parents, and then we had Christmas with my parents. And so we were trying to figure out how to make it all work out so that we could be, do all of them, and, everybody would be happy. And so I had made, and my parents have always done, like, opening presents first thing in the morning, like early, like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, Christmas morning, we would wake up and we'd open presents. And I guess because I had always done that. They expected, even though I no longer lived with them, I would still be coming over 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to come open presents. And I kind of politely told them that I didn't think I was going to, that we were going to wake up and do our own Christmas that morning. And then we were going to go to his parents, kind of for like, as when we were done, we were going to go to his parents and do kind of breakfast. And then when we were done there, I said, we'll come over to your house, and we'll eat dinner with you guys. And then, we can give each other gifts after dinner. And for whatever reason, this completely pissed my stepdad off. And me suggesting that we just come over for dinner and give each other gifts after was all of a sudden me wanting them to do a gift-giving ceremony to me and make all of the other guests feel bad because I got more gifts than they did. First of all, that's why I suggested we did the gifts after dinner once people leave, because I understand that doesn't seem very fair, that you're probably more likely to spend more money or buy more gifts for your daughter than you are for the extended family that comes over for Christmas. No, not on the bed. So that was the whole thing. Was I just had suggested we go for dinner and then do gifts after everybody had left. And this was them saying, I was being selfish and I wanted everything to be about me and I wanted a gift-giving ceremony and, I was just basically being a horrible, terrible human being, and I was not here for that. I tried to reason and explain, like, no, I don't want to give the gifts, like, while everybody is there. I figured we'd come over for dinner, and then once everybody leaves, then we can give each other the gifts. That way, nobody feels bad if, we got each other more than they got from us. So, I tried to explain, and it went in one ear and out the other. And so then that's when the mean and nasty texts really started. And it turned into going back years about anything and everything, every little tiny infraction I had ever done or perceived to have done. Things were said to me that I was like, that never even happened. I don't remember that even a little bit, and it was getting progressively worse. And this was all happening while I was at work. At the time, I worked at Taco Bell as a manager, and I just remember getting these texts, and I had to excuse myself back to the office, or I just sobbed, and I cried and cried over all these mean, nasty things they were saying to me. And at first, it was just my sister. It was kind of just the only one who was being mean, and then I told her that I was done talking to her, and that she could fuck off, and I was done. And then my stepdad started in, and he started texting me mean and nasty things. And finally, I had said enough was enough. I was not going to be spoken to this way. I had been trying my best and bending over backwards to try to make everybody else happy, and was getting spit in my face for it. Fuck off then. I'm not coming at all. This was the best that I could do because they were going to do breakfast. You guys always do like a late lunch, early dinner. So that was the best way I could come up with, that we could do everything and make everybody happy. And you're acting like I'm a terrible person for trying to make things work because I wasn't doing exactly what you wanted, the way you wanted me to do it. And I decided I was done. I was not going to listen to this. I was not going to be talked to that way. So you just went from me coming over to dinner to me not coming over at all. Congratulations. I will not be there. And that was a huge step for me, saying this to my stepdad, because I was very afraid of him. And as far as I remember, he was never really physically abusive. Like, there was a couple of times where, like, he grabbed my arm and left bruises, or he would get in my face and scream at me, but, he never punched me, slapped me, anything like that. But, I know grabbing my arm and leaving bruises is still, kind of physically abusive, but his main shtick was the mental, psychological, make you think that you're crazy kind of stuff. The fun things. And so it was a huge, huge step for me being able to tell him this, that like, I'm not coming and you can forget about it. It's not going to happen. Me actually having the balls to tell him this. Meanwhile, I'm on, on the other end of the phone, literally shaking and crying, looking like a hot mess. And, he came back with some other mean things. And, I honestly almost wish I still had that phone with those text messages. Um, I I almost wish I had them so I could share them with you because they were so mean. But that was like 6 phones ago. Um, and he was just being so hurtful and saying these terrible things. And finally, I don't remember exactly what tipped me off. Like, not what tipped me off, but what, tipped the scale that went from, it went from let me come for dinner to I'm not coming at all to me telling my stepdad, then you can fuck off. I'm done with you. And he told me that basically, that's fine. You're as good as dead. You don't exist as far as I'm concerned. And never spoke to me again. I don't believe that that's true. And that may be because I have some slight paranoia issues because of this man. But shortly thereafter, I started getting text messages from a random phone number calling me a bitch and a whore and a slut and all these things, and saying things about my family that a stranger wouldn't know, like my other family, like my dad's side of the family, that a stranger wouldn't know. And I distinctly remember and it was from like a texting app, so you couldn't like trace it to like a phone, an actual phone. So somebody was using a texting app to send me mean things about me and my family, that, my other side of the family. And I just distinctly remember at some point it switched and it sounded like a different person talking. Like, how each person, like when you're texting, it sounds like you. You text like you talk, or most people do. I do anyway. You text like you talk. And the way that this was going was it sounded like two different people. So sometimes it sounded like one person and sometimes it sounded like another. So I have the belief that my sister and my stepdad got this app and were texting me these mean things because they're horrible people. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong. I have absolutely no way to prove it. Maybe I'm just crazy and paranoid, and maybe somebody really did get a hold of my phone number and just decided to fuck with me. But the thing that makes me think that it was them is the fact that they knew stuff about my family that people wouldn't know. They knew names and dates and where people lived, and unless I had a stalker that I just magically disappeared, there, who else could it have been? Who had a grudge against me? Who had a penchant for saying mean, nasty things, and who knew about my family? Because my stepdad always prided himself on being able to figure things out, which translates to he was psycho and would figure things out by following people and stalk you. Like, he literally would stalk people. And it was crazy. And so, sorry, long story short, let me get off of that bin because that is the future. So, after the whole Christmas thing, and I decided out of the goodness of my own heart that I still wanted them all to have the gifts that I had bought for them. I just wasn't going to come to Christmas. So, my best friend at the time and I went to my mother's house when I knew my stepdad wasn't going to be there. And hoped to God my sister wasn't going to be there. So we went, and she stayed out in the car and basically was like, just, let me know if you need me. I'll back you up type of deal. And I didn't think anything was going to go down, but it was nice having that. So I go in, and my intention is to give my mom the gifts and to talk to her about everything that had happened. Kind of get a read on it. What do you feel? What do you think about this whole situation? And it was like talking to a wall. And I went in completely level-headed. I was calm. I had had some time to process what had happened, and I wasn't really okay, but I was okay enough that I was able to talk. I thought I was going to be able to talk to her. But what triggered me to go into a flying fucking rage was the fact that I wasn't having a conversation with her. I was talking at her because she wasn't listening. And I went in and I told her what happened in case she didn't know. Like I said, I was getting texts from my stepdad and my sister, but as far as I know, my mom did not know that they were doing these things. As far as I know, she had no clue that I had had this big blow up and that they were being so mean to me. And that sounds so juvenile. They were being mean to me. Yeah. But they were. They were being mean and they were being cruel. And I wanted to talk to her about it. And I tried and I was explaining, this is what they said. This is how I felt. This is how it ended up. And this is the way that they treated me. And she just stood there with her arms crossed, just never said a word. Not an I'm sorry, not I didn't know that was going on, not I didn't know you felt that way, nothing. There was nothing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't a mother have some sort of reaction to their daughter coming to them and saying, I feel this way, I'm very upset and I'm very hurt by the things that were said to me, and, trying to make sense of it in my mind, and you have no reaction at all? Nothing? So that was kind of my mindset. That's when it flipped. And it went from me trying to have a conversation with her to suddenly I just had some things to fucking say. And I let it rip. I had never sworn in front of my mother before. And I said just about every word you can possibly think of. And I started crying and I was like screaming at her, basically, like, why don't you fucking see what they're doing? They don't treat you like a mother, they treat you like a maid. And that's true. She was basically the person there to clean the house and cook the food. That's how they treated her. So they treat you like they treated me. And they treated me terribly. I was like suicidal and I was miserable. And nobody ever did a goddamn thing about it. And you sat there the whole time doing nothing. And yes, you may not have had a hand in the misery that was given to me in terms of being abusive or being mean or cruel to me, but you did nothing. You did nothing to protect your child from these horrible things that are being said to her. You did nothing to protect your child from, literally wanting to fucking kill herself. And at one point I even told them that I was kind of feeling suicidal, and obviously I wasn't like wanting to actually go through with it because I was telling them and I was kind of seeking the help, and I was basically told, you have no reason to do that, that's stupid. And that was that. That was all they said about the matter. All these things happen and you had nothing to say. You didn't stand up for me. You didn't say anything to your husband about maybe you shouldn't talk to her that way. Those times that he grabbed me by the arm and left bruises, you said nothing. The times he literally got in my face screaming at me so loud and so harshly that spit was flying into my face, and you had nothing to say? Ever? And then I kind of had a realization as I was talking to her, or as I was screaming at her. And I just kind of stopped for a second. I was like, do you remember the last time you even told me you loved me? And that was kind of the moment that the calm just washed over me. I was just done. So I left the presents and I took what she gave me and I said, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. And basically it's up to you if we have a relationship or not, because I'm done. If you're gonna get your act together and you're gonna stop being a doormat and letting people walk all over you, you have my number. If you decide you want to fucking leave his ass, I don't have a spare room, but I have a couch. We lived in a 1-bedroom house. So I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. I can't live with this anymore. It's not who I am. I am not happy. So I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go find my happy. And As I'm walking out the door, mascara running, tears down my face, everything is red and puffy, she leans out the door and says, "Well, I love you." That's all you have to say about that was like the only thing she said. Literally, from like the time I started to the time I finished. That's it. I love you. After I pointed out that I couldn't remember the last time she'd said those words to me. So, I left. I did. And I did not talk to her. And I have not spoken to my stepdad since. I have not spoken to my sister since. I have spoken to my mother out of kind of like necessity. Like I needed to know like some family medical history, so I had to bite the bullet and call her to find some stuff out. And so every once in a while she'll text me. And it's one of those things that I have a really hard time with her because she's my mother, and it's like I feel as if she kind of has a right to know about what's going on in my life, but at the same time I want to keep her at arm's length. So I'll inform her of stuff, but it's like the very basic. Like I told her I got engaged and she wanted to know all about the wedding. And I just told her very vague that it's going to be sometime in the spring. It's going to be in the spring and probably in a park. And then we ended up eloping, but I mean, and I told her I'm pregnant. She does not know anything else other than the fact that we're having a boy. She knows that I'm pregnant and that it's a boy. And I have not told her about any of the doctor appointments, and I have not told her, I don't think I've even told her my due date. Excuse me. And this is the whole reason that this time of year is kind of hard for me in some regards, because it brings up the memories of standing in my mother's living room for the last time, screaming at her, wishing I could just get through to her, because they treat her so badly. They treat her the same way they treated me. She's a doormat. She's there to cook and clean and do their bidding, and that's that. And I was hoping that maybe she would leave him. I was hoping that maybe she would be my mother. And I was hoping me going there would make a difference. And it did, but not in a good way. And, I can tell that to some degree I'm not over it, obviously, but it's not as much of a raw nerve as it was. I'm not getting teared up. I'm not crying. I'm not thinking about crying. I'm just sad about it and a little angry. And that's how I know that, I'm not over it, because I can't talk about it without getting upset to some degree. And it's been 4 years, but that's a very deep-seated issue, with years and years and years of stuff built up behind it before that moment ever happened. And I have had moments where I get very depressed and very sad, thinking about the fact that my son is really not going to have anybody in my side of the family. He's not going to know my stepdad. He's not going to know my sister. He's probably not going to know my mother. My grandma passed. Both of my grandmothers have passed now. And, I've got some family in Michigan, but, my dad's family, some of them up in Michigan, but I'm not close with them. So, basically, the only family my son is going to have is going to be me, my husband's family, my brother, and my dad. That's about it. And I've gotten really sad, and I cried about it the other day, because it upsets me, because I don't want him to grow up the way I did, not really having a whole lot of family around. I would love to have the big Thanksgivings and the big Christmases and going to people's houses and going to see your aunts and uncles and cousins and you know, he's not gonna have that. And this time of year I always start to think about these things, but this year I think is really bad just because of the pregnancy. You know, it's something that is just kind of a passing thought, and then this year it has become something that I've had to deal with and had to like really work through the way I feel about the whole situation. So and I know that it may seem silly to some people, and especially because I haven't given, you know, super details, big details about like what led up to it, that, you know, maybe it seems like I overreacted, but let me tell you, there was several years worth of things built up behind my final explosion. Excuse me. I didn't just decide to go scream at my mother. That was never my intention. You know, I went there to talk to her, and she wasn't willing to talk, and I do have a temper. You know, I have my dad's temper, but she wasn't willing to talk, and so I guess somewhere in my mind, I decided that if she wasn't going to listen, I was going to speak louder so she could hear me. And somewhere along the way, that turned into screaming very loudly at her. The neighbors probably heard me. And then getting a text the next day from my sister saying, "Don't you ever talk to my mother that way again." So that tells me that two things. My mom told them what happened, obviously. She was probably upset, understandably so. And the fact that she said my mother tells me that she no longer considers me her sister. And it is officially a me versus them scenario. And like I said, I have not consciously, intentionally, knowingly spoken to my sister or my stepdad since. And I don't plan to. And I should probably go to therapy about all of this to work through it, but I don't have time for that. I'm working through it. It's taking me time, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better, and I'm loads better than I was, 4 years ago when it was fresh, obviously. Talking about my stepdad doesn't bring burning hot rage to my chest. Like, I am getting better. And so I guess what I want to say for anybody who has watched this video, who's made it this far, if you or someone you know experienced something like this, whether it be physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional manipulation, sexual abuse, anything that is kind of one of those hard to swallow things that you're like, I can't believe this happened to me. If you or anybody you know is going through that or has experienced that in the past, they can heal. And you can heal. But heal at your own pace. And like I said, it's been years for me. Maybe it's years for you. Maybe it's months. Whatever, I don't want to say whatever you need to do, because some people go the wrong way with that. And they turn to, drugs or alcohol to try to make themselves feel better about the situation. And I don't want that. I'm not advocating that. I am not suggesting that. I don't think that drugs and alcohol are a way to heal from trauma. Talking about it does help. At least it does for me. It seems like every time I talk about it, it gets a little easier to talk about. Just take your time. Don't try to rush it. Don't feel like because it's already been a year, I should be over this by now. Because in terms of healing, a year is nothing. It's no time at all. So, I hope this video wasn't completely all over the place for everybody. I know I don't bother editing my videos. You get what you get. This is me. And like I said, I didn't really prep myself for this. I just sat down and said, I'm going to record this video. So, and I don't know when I'm going to post it either. You know, maybe by the time I hit stop on this recording, I will decide I'm going to fucking post it right now. Maybe I'll wait a week or two. I don't know. Maybe I won't post it at all. Who knows? So, I guess that's all. I really just wanted to get it out there, and that's the reason that the holidays are so hard for me right now. Dealing with that past as well as the future with my son. And all I can do is keep going. Maybe one day a Christmas will come and I won't think about them. Maybe that'll never happen. I don't know. They were a part of my life. A big part. They were all I knew. And then suddenly they weren't anymore. And that was really hard for me for a long time. And since then, I've gotten more family, new family, chosen family. I have an absolutely amazing husband and 2 amazing, beautiful, wonderful dogs. And, I have a better relationship with my father than I've ever had. I've got 2 amazing in-laws and, a best friend who would pick up the phone if I called her at 3 o'clock in the morning because something was wrong. And I'm happy. And I may not be exactly where I want to be 100%, but I know that I'm in a better place than I was. I'm a better person than I was. And that gives me peace of mind. Even knowing what happened and knowing that I don't have that relationship with them anymore, I think that my life is better off now than it ever could have been had I stayed. Had I stayed in that situation, I think I would have been miserable, and I may have even ended my life. And, I can't remember the last time I had a suicidal thought. I am genuinely so much happier being away from them that I cannot ever imagine putting myself back in that position. So, that's all for this video. I will see you guys next time at the next video. So, bye.